On this episode of Fermented Nerds, they drink a locally made beer and fail at describing it. They talk nostalgia in beer and games and stumble over a lot of words. It's their first try. Be nice. Two, one. Hello, we are the Fermented Nerds, and this is episode 1 of our YouTube show, podcast, whatever you want to call it. It's going to be rough going, but stick with us. I'm Wally, this is Kyle, and this is Dave. We're going to drink some beer, and we're going to chat, and we're going to see what happens on our first
I was going to say episode
trial.
0.01.
Negative 1. Okay.
Like the secret boss level episode where it's like only the hardest of the hardcore will be like, have you seen episode -1? It's terrible. There's a dog the whole time.
This one just
Sore
gets
throats.
buried deep in episode 90.
Yeah,
That's
that's
what
right.
happens.
Okay,
Clearly
so
drunk the whole time.
Yeah, clearly. There is going to be a dog barking in the background. Some of us have scratchy throats. We're going to convince Dave to talk. It'll be good. So stay tuned. Today we are trying a Gamer Night IPA from New Era Brewing. They're apparently based out of Calgary, but brew at Cooley Brewing. So Cooley Brewing, yeah, in Lethbridge, Alberta, where we are, doing contract work. I don't know what the deal with Cooley Brew is. The liquor store said they're not making their own beer anymore.
Contract only now?
Yeah, contract only. So
I heard they were going to do that.
which is good for the business. Too bad for fans of Cooley Brew beer. But
Both of them.
C'est la vie, both of them. Okay, so let's establish some ground rules. We won't talk about religion or politics. We also won't hold back on beer. If your beer sucks, we're going to let you know. Even if you're our friends, we know you. We're going to have favoritism to certain styles, and that's just the way it's going to be. We're not experts. We're not homebrewers. We just like drinking beer. And I think it'll be kind of a neat take. I've seen a lot of like real amateur podcast, like amateur beer drinkers and real pro beer drinker podcasts and YouTube shows and stuff. So hopefully we'll land somewhere in the middle. It's not like we haven't drank beer before. So, a couple. So we're going to crack these right in this microphone here. And we're going to give this a whirl. Pour it, look at it, smell it. We're not beer snobs, I don't think.
Yeah. It depends.
Yeah.
Depends. I like tasty beer.
But
Don't like beer that's not tasty.
But we know that there's a time and place for anything, right? So we're not going to necessarily bash just people who drink Coors Light, because, geez, who hasn't drank Coors Light Camping or Palm Bays or whatever it's going to be? So,
Speaking of which, this smells like it's about halfway between the two of them.
halfway between the Palm Bay
The Coors Light, yeah.
Can't wait. Oh, yeah, it's just an IPA. Golden amber. Smells hoppy. Smells like
Yeah.
like dirt, like forest floor, kind of typical IPA smell. I looked this up before I came, and there's absolutely zero about it. They don't say what hops they use or nothing. They don't say what style it is.
There might be a reason for that.
So let's... Anyways, I don't know who New Era is. I looked them up a little bit. It seems like maybe somebody just has money and they want to open a brewery and they haven't yet. Because they have a fairly active Facebook and Instagram account. So
Oh, that reminds me, we should talk about that after. That there's a new Alberta Beer Awards. Have you heard of the Alberta Fake Brewery Awards?
yeah.
Yeah, we should talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, I was following them on Twitter a little bit last night, actually. Yeah, let's try it out here.
Yeah, see what you think. I know what I think. See what we go.
Oh, it's a West Coast IPA. I'll give it that. It's all plant, all like leafy, verdant, pine needle.
Nice.
Like,
Nice use of verdant.
like that's what it is, right?
I don't care for it. It's like very, I don't know, it's almost too bready for me. Like, you know, when they've got that kind of bready taste to it, like that kind
That
of...
funky kind of...
But even funky,
Ale-ish.
like, funky's good. It just... If I'm going to be real here, it tastes cheap. It tastes... Yeah.
Okay, what it reminds me of is when we started drinking IPAs, because it was kind of when they just started coming out. and they're all like super West Coast, so
Yeah.
pine needles and all that, verdant, as I said. And like just here's hops forward, no malt, no balance, and that's kind of what I get from this one. So
Yeah, I can't really detect any type of like hops. You know how some like
this is
Citra
probably
tastes a certain way, and I don't know.
so this is probably Cascade or Centennial, because that's like your typical West Coast like pine needle. What do you think?
No, I like it. It's I agree though. Like it's got the kicks there that hoppy flavor, but it's like you said, it's just almost like a bad base, right?
Yeah,
it's just,
there's something.
it's
Well, they want to make an IPA, and they're like, well, let's make a hoppy beer, and didn't balance it very well.
Yeah.
Like you'll see with, what you see now.
Yeah.
Right? So this is, like I said, this is, when did we start drinking, like, craft beer? 7 years ago?
about there, yeah.
Yeah, I think my is 2012 is when I started actually checking stuff into Untapped. So
Yeah.
about them. Yeah.
We'll put our Untapped names in the description below, so click on that and friend us, and we'll find you. Because I like following people who have like 4,000 check-ins.
Something inspired you.
One guy on Untapped the other day I looked at, he had like, say, 4,300 total check-ins, but 4,000 unique beer. How's that? Just never drink same thing twice. Like, had it. Sorry.
I usually don't actually check it in,
Dump
though. If I've had the same thing twice, I typically don't check it in. I've only just recently started checking in stuff I've had before, because that was been the point for me for a long time, was only to check in what I haven't had. So I think but I don't have as many check-ins as you guys do, because I sometimes forget.
You took a break for a while, though.
Yeah, I was out of it for a bit. But yeah, I think Dave had it right when he said bad base, that there's something sort of down in there somewhere that's just not, it either tastes cheap or I don't know, I can't put my finger on it, but yeah, it's almost old or it's just not.
It seems like maybe they just went fast to market, you know? Because they don't have their own brewery, so they can't test batch. They can't
Yes, that's true.
try things out, right? So unless it was a home brewer, and this is what he made at home, and then made it big.
That's actually what it reminds me of. Almost like kit beer. So when you buy like a Cooper's IPA or whatever, and the stuff that people make at home, that's what it reminds me of. Is it's got that sort of just very generic taste.
It's like-
that's a perfect way to put it.
Yeah.
It's there, right? It's just didn't.
It's like Keith's IPA, right? Kind of.
I would ever see Keith's
This isn't bad. It's
It's
like, I
not
don't mind
stopping
it.
me
It's
from
just-
drinking it either. It's just a matter of it's certainly
But the
not.
wow factor is probably like a 2. Like, it's just
yeah.
not. You know, some beers is kind of like, ooh,
Yeah.
you feel it, right? And,
I got this purely for the label, actually.
I give it a 8.5.
So they
What's
have,
the aggregate on that? It's 8.5 for label, and then taste brings it down.
they have 3 beer. They have a Dragon Stout, I think, or Porter, and then they have a lager of some night
Peasant lager, or
Oh no, it's a night IPA. It was like a Warrior or something. When I got it at Distilled Liquor, located in Center Village Mall. Hey, let's talk about sponsorships.
on that note,
Wait for that.
We are looking for sponsors, so if you are a liquor store or brewery out there who wants us to come and film from there, let us know. We gladly will.
yeah. If you want me to say your
We
beer,
say in our first podcast.
right. If you want me to say your beer tastes like it was homebrewed, go ahead and look me up, because I got you covered.
We said we'd be honest. And I think that's important, though. I think it's really important that even right off the hop we show it. Like, if this beer is amazing, I'd be like, oh, God.
Well, I think it'd be clear too. Like, it's not like we're shitting on this beer. It's not
No.
terrible beer. It's just when you look at it and what you expect from it.
Doesn't say how many
It doesn't
IBU it
match,
is.
right?
Does anybody have their Untapped on them? It is 6%, so
Yeah.
stronger IPA. Yeah, it's just like super hot forward, that's all. Nothing fancy about it.
No, nothing fancy about it for sure.
Okay, remember, look at the camera. Let's, since we broached it, do you want to talk like how we kind of started doing beer and stuff? I mean, this is different. This is just me being semi-retired old man and trying to keep myself busy. But like kind of our journey, how we started. Because us, it's pretty easy. We did a history and beer tour.
Yeah, well, we
Right?
started at the same spot.
Yeah.
To diverge our path a bit.
So yeah, we did a history and beer tour like 7 years ago about. and we'd kind of done a few, because I definitely had checked stuff in before that on Untapped.
No, I wasn't on Untapped yet.
And then, so we tried a few there, and it was like, it was hard, because it was like, oh man, IPA.
Everyone was an IPA, and I was like, never... Back then, craft beer to me was like Stella.
Oh, yeah.
Rickard's Red.
Rickard's Red was the big one.
I checked in like Rickard's Red, and like...
fancy.
I gave it a 5.
Yeah.
5 out of 5.
It's the greatest.
I'm feeling fancy. I'll have a Rickard's Red, please.
What's your first fancy beer you ever drank?
Funny, it's hard to remember, especially when you're talking about going back. I think it's hard to pick a time where exactly I started doing this type of stuff, but I do remember the first breweries that I started to go to, microbreweries to check out, was my wife and I were in Missoula.
Oh, yeah.
And we had heard that if you like beer, there was a lot of places in Missoula to check out. And so we went and just were like, okay, let's give it a try. And I remember it being a lot of fun and really, really liking it. And I think that's what kind of started our love of like beer tourism, checking things out. I mean, if you've got a chance to go down to Missoula, they have got a lot of really good stuff really contained there. First sour I ever drank was down there, and it was a dill pickle sour, which was, I mean, at the time we were like, oh, weird, but now you look back on it, you're like,
Was our first sour in Missoula? Remember? It's like key lime. What was it? The key lime sour.
No, we were definitely into it by then.
Okay.
Our first one was definitely that beer tour that we went.
Was that our first sour? Did we have a sour?
No, never. Our first sour would have been that key.
Yeah, that weird. It was like named after some actress.
They
or
were
something.
terrible then. They're terrible now.
We all have our favorites. But yeah, we went down. We went to Tamarack and we asked for the sample, and it was like 20
yeah. They do
samplers. We're like, jeez, okay.
Lanny McDonald's brewery.
Really?
Yeah, Marcus.
Denmark, yeah. Lanny McDonald's. There's a shout out to your Alberta fans. See, that's right. Educational and entertaining.
Oh yeah, they have like 3 or 4 for sure down there.
Yeah, they're good.
So, I think the first craft beer I ever had was Big Rock. Big Rock Traditional.
I don't know if I...
And that would have been like when it kind of first came out. And after that, in like the early 2000s or like late 90s, I had Le Fin de Mont from WCL. And it came in these big bottles and the cork and stuff. And it was like super high octane back then, right? Not like it is now. So it was those, I remember, kind of being like the first couple. And then it was like nothing forever.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's like vodka slimes, basically.
I was going to say an Alabama
Budweiser.
You're dating yourself a little bit.
They were. Well, I can't remember. Like, I don't remember the first ones we had on that tour and stuff. But I think when I signed in Untapped in 2015, we were in Atlanta at a brewery called UFO, or not a brewery, sorry, like a tap house.
Yeah.
But it was like one of those ones where there was 30, 40 beers on tap, and you'd sign up, sort of like the passport for. You get stamps or whatever, but they had plates. You had a plate, and you would get numbers, and you get rings and designs.
Oh, yeah, you were telling me.
So, and the first one I had there, the very first one I had checked, I think it was called a Fire Ant Red, I believe it was called. It was like the first one I ever checked in. And then from there, once we got Untapped, and that hooked me as much as the beer did.
Well, once you get badges, and once you make a game out of it,
then it's like an adventure, right?
I mean, that is the other half of our podcast is beer and gaming, right? So as soon as you start to gamify it, we're all over. Right?
We find a way to nerd our beer up even more.
Yeah, that's right. Even more than normal.
I looked on my Untapped, kind of knowing we broached the subject today. And so I went back like oldest to newest, and it was like, Rickard's Red. But then
number one.
Weird like pumpkin beers and strange things. And then the first like beer I know I like that was on there, and I rated everything super high.
I still kind of do.
Like,
did you hear my record?
St. Ambrose pumpkin 4.5. It's like,
still beer at the end of the day. So
it was Disco Soleil. That was like the first ace beer I had.
It's still a 5
that
for
hooked
me,
me.
Like, is that so? We have to talk about that. If we ever get a Disco Soleil sponsorship, is that like the end of the podcast? Is that the summit of the mountain?
Yeah, well, that's the apex.
That's the apex. If anybody
sent us their six pack of Disco, we're like, well,
that's it. That's all objectives achieved. That is
the beer drinkers.
It's funny because I've definitely had beer that have matched that since, but it holds a special place,
because it was the first one that everybody sort of liked.
Yeah. I think it's like that with like we talked board gamers when you play games like older editions of games, they just like Dungeons and Dragons or Warhammer or whatever. They just looking back, they're probably really bad. I loved Rifts like Palladium, but looking back, that game is god awful.
It's hilarious.
No, but it's not the game. Yeah. So the mechanics are a little on the rough side.
Yeah, the game, everything else,
but the lore and the
the
background and
but
the characters, like everything's fantastic.
The game is like
Go back to original TMNT.
Yeah.
There was a rules.
Well, my eye twitches when I start thinking about trying to play that game.
Even when we a few years ago we tried to make characters for it. It was thoroughly enjoyable too.
Oh, yeah.
I remember my vivid memory of Rifts is playing an unskilled vagabond because I didn't feel like going through and assigning all my percentages for skills. And I was like, "Hell, I'll just be a vagabond." He gets like 13% worth of skills, and then I don't care anymore. Good enough.
I played a lot of that game. I don't know how. We did it. We probably just argued rules the whole time, like any role-playing game ever.
When you're a teenager, yeah, that's the one that I. Speaking of ones that were nostalgic, you never. Like Rifts, I definitely got into the one that always passed me by that a lot of people seem to be nostalgic for is GURPS. I was never hooked in.
I tried it. Dave J played that and got me in, and no, it was just weird.
Yeah,
too weird. Universal.
We had to roll on a chart to see what chart you rolled on, right? Wasn't that? Didn't GURPS kind of have that system?
Like nested charts is like a '90s role playing staple, right?
But the book was like.
Oh, so weird. Yeah, it just never hooked me. Yeah.
Well, when it's like generic universal, it's just not going to be a good system, really, probably.
But I do remember it was the first ever character generator I downloaded. In high school, I was in computer class, and we had found online a GURPS character generator. We were like, should we try and do it? And then we tried, and we were like, ooh, terrible.
No, I don't
know. We definitely shouldn't be playing that.
Never.
I need less math in my game.
Yeah. I remember playing TMNT, but like when we went back and made those characters, and we looked, we were like, weapons have no stats. I have a katana. What does it do? I don't know. It's like, how did I play this?
How did this even happen?
I think they released this stuff.
Pretty sure we just transferred over to Battle or something when we played it.
Yeah. Well, and it's important to note that when we made our guys, we actually used Dave's original edition books too. So these are not even reprints. So anything that was, I think it was like I said, how much damage does the katana do? Some?
Something.
Grab dice. Which one you grab? 8. Sounds good.
Everything completely random. We rolled everything. What race?
You want a fun Saturday night?
Yeah.
Drink beer and make wild characters.
It was a stoned university kitchen.
Pheasant.
It's great. It's so good.
So good. So yeah, that's some of the stuff we're into, role-playing games. But I would have to say the one thing for the nerds that really dominates us is miniatures.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm looking at this camera right now, and it is on a stack of 3 Warhammer box sets.
Start collecting, Vermin Lord.
Yeah. So
we had to raise the camera up. And Dave has all.
What does Dave have the most of, right?
And there might be an Orcs book on the very top.
On the very, very top. So that's I would say the bulk of our stuff, and probably will take up a fair chunk of our airtime, I'd imagine.
Yeah, I think we're gonna have we'll definitely do some battle reports and record some games and talk about that kind of stuff. We'll probably, I think the format going forward is the beer tastings will probably be a little separate. And then we'll just do some talk about gaming or whatever while we're drinking after we've talked about our beer.
I think beer tasting's a good opener because really every time we drink beer we end up talking about gaming anyways. We just don't have lives yelling at us now.
Yeah. Your dog's been really good.
I know.
We warned everybody on the hop that it was
I'm actually nervous now. Well, great.
Is it because we haven't stopped?
Now you definitely have to edit out that first part.
Yeah.
She's alive, I swear to God.
Well, we haven't stopped talking.
Maybe
that's why.
Yeah,
we figured out tricks.
You've intimidated, yeah.
No.
Okay. Good.
Anything else you guys want to talk about this first quick one?
No, I think that's a good test. Like I said, we were all kind of just sort of feeling our way through it, and
I think it's good. It'll be a good test for the old microphone here and the equipment.
How it sounds.
Cool.
See how it looks.
Okay.
Cool.
Good
enough?
Yeah. 6 minutes. I'll probably jump right away.